Right, joining me now on the line is Justin Buchholz. Team Alpha Male, unfortunately, since Justin has parted ways with the team, has not been doing their best work, and that might be putting it lightly. The definition of insanity, some say, is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and unfortunately for Cody Garbrandt, he got knocked out in the same fashion as he did in both of those TJ Dillashaw fights. Now, you were in his corner, Justin, for just the first of those fights, correct?
I was in his corner for TJ 1, but I was no longer his head coach.
Oh, at that time you were no longer the head coach. Okay.
I was no longer the head coach of Alpha Male, and I was no longer Cody's head coach. If you watch that embedded, it says there's like we're at the airport, and it says like I'm Muay Thai coach or some BS, you know.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was already out. I was not in that position.
So you had a foot out the door at that point in time, and you had left soon thereafter, correct?
Yeah, I left after Darren Elkins. I stayed in the gym until Darren Elkins fought Michael Johnson, and that was Michael Johnson was. It was his first fight in division. He was heavily hyped. Elkins was in the top 10. Elkins was on I think we were on a 6-fight win streak together. Last I cornered Darren Elkins, and since then he, I don't know what happened to him. He dropped 2 and got finished for the first time since USADA came into play. That's what's happened to Elkins since I worked with him. So, it's not just Cody.
Yeah, that was the first time he'd been knocked out since Chad Mendes, and that was, I guess, before he was even at Alpha Male, because Mendes was at Alpha Male at the time.
Yeah, I was in Mendes' corner for that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's when he had made the move over soon thereafter. So, unfortunately, it's been some pretty devastating things, I'm sure, from your perspective. I know that you care about all of these individuals who you have coached in the past. Yeah, man, it is just it for me. I mean, everyone's talking about what happened to Cody, and that's pretty sad in itself. But I mean, just speaking of Elkins, he was poised for a title shot after Michael Johnson. He had won 6. He had his comeback against Mirsad Bektic. He was a complete animal, and people will scoff and laugh and say, Darren Elkins, Max Holloway's on a different level, blah, blah, blah. But I would just paint the picture to people. I mean, this is at the UFC after he beat Michael Johnson. I said, all right, well, if imagine a fight with Holloway did happen. Now imagine a fight in rounds 4 and 5, and everyone stopped and they'd say, oh, man, well, Elkins got a shot to beat him. Like, if Elkins survives the first 3 and anyone in there with Elkins 4 and 5, the guy doesn't get tired. The guy hadn't been knocked out since Mendes, there's no shame in that, but he was durable, and you could see that the guy had a shot. I would have at least liked to see Darren challenge for a belt in his career. I felt like he deserved that, the work he's put in and some of the fights he's put on. I'll say I've been backstage for a lot of events, and I haven't seen a team as happy as after that Mirsad Bektic fight. We were talking backstage. I think I had told you that he was something like a 20-1 underdog going into the 3rd round against Bektic in the live betting or whatever it was. So that was one of the most remarkable comebacks in UFC history. Yeah, that reason right there, that fight with Elkins and Bektic, that's the reason why I love MMA. It's because you can't quantify a win like that. You can't scientifically on paper say why that happened. I mean, going into the 3rd round, like you said, he was 20-1 dog. It was impossible for him to win that fight, and he knocked that dude out with a combination that we practiced against the fence nonstop when he had him against the fence. Because Elkins, if Elkins is pushing you up against the fence, you're in trouble. So he worked a lot of stuff out there, that body kick and that right hand. And I think he said that in the post-fight interview. He said, just like on the mitts, same combination, something like that. But man, that's a hard moment to live up to if you're talking about a team being happy. Like that was pure joy and whatever else to see our guy go out there and get it done like that. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think has gone wrong? I mean, you look at back-to-back losses now for Elkins. Cody has lost 3 in a row. The only one with any real momentum is someone who you're still coaching, Cynthia Calvillo. Hey, what are the odds of that? What's the connection there? It does. I mean, it does seem odd. Probably not a coincidence. I'd imagine. It seems crazy that the one fighter that I'm still working with, has a shot to be the next champion. So she's beaten two top-level contenders in the last 3 months. She's looking better with each fight. She's working different aspects of her game as the fight goes on. I mean, she came back against Polyana after a 9-month layoff
and Polyana was one of the most feared women in that division. She just came off the 30-second knockout of the Japanese girl. She had 6 KOs in 7 fights. She was trained by Andre Pederneiras, the legend, you know what I mean? And Team Alpha Male and Nova União has had a rivalry for 10 years, from Mendes to Aldo, and I quartered Mendes for both those fights, to TJ to Barral. I mean, even to Andre Fili and Cochran Diaz. And
Uriah and Aldo, Uriah and Barral. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we've been fighting them forever. So their top prospect versus, one of the top fighters from Alpha Male, it was a big deal, Cynthia coming back, and there hasn't been a single fight where an Alpha Male guy has just steamrolled a Nova União fighter like Cynthia did to Polyana. So she came out and made Polyana look like a first-timer and choked her in 4 minutes. It was pretty impressive. And then 11 days later, Cynthia signed to fight number 10 in the division,
Courtney Casey.
And she didn't get to finish, but she had to deal with adversity in that fight, and her striking game looked evolved and improved as a fighter should, So
I don't think anybody's finished Courtney Casey in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, either. She's very durable.
Man, and all Courtney Casey's split decision losses, she's only lost by split decision, and she's taken those fights on 2 weeks' notice. She took the fight with Karate Hottie on, I think, 3 weeks' notice, and knocked her head around like a pinball machine in the first round. She's a beast, man. She's a beast, and she's like a fighter like you remember Mac Danzig?
Yeah.
Ultimate Fighter winner. Yeah, Mac Danzig. I fought Mac Danzig in the UFC, and this is what people told me, and I didn't really understand it until I fought him. They said, you can't look good against Mac Danzig, winning or losing. He's going to make the fight like that. And I feel like Courtney Casey is that type of fighter. Even if you get the win on her, you're not necessarily going to look good. But, I felt like Cynthia looked good. And as a coach, she overcame adversity and did a lot of good things in that fight. So I don't know what it is. It must be something in the water at Alpha Male, I guess.
Yeah, well, looking at that, though, I mean, I saw the Thrill in the Agony video. I don't know if you saw that. I think it came out yesterday. And they showed
Cody's, I saw that.
Yeah, they showed Cody's corner, and Castillo was yelling, don't exchange with the right, don't exchange with the right. So it looks like they knew that was an issue, and Cody has since come out and said
but Aaron, think about this, though. He's screaming, don't trade right hands. As a coach, that's the last thing you want to scream. What is that? If a fighter is in there, think about what the fighter is computing. Don't trade right hands. He'll probably get right hand out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like the rumor game when everyone's sitting around a table and you say something to someone, they say it to the next person. By the time it gets all the way down past 6 people, it's going to be something completely different. Now try screaming through, a crowd and everything else that comes with an event, a live event. You have to be very specific with what you say in the corner. To say don't trade right hands it's kind of foolish. He should have said keep your left hand up. And instead of saying get out of there, he should have been saying move your feet. You know what I mean? It was bizarre to me. And then also that to show that kind of emotion and do that as the corner. Look, man, it's not you in there. That's the fighter in there. You need to be strong for your fighter. If you want to see a good corner in action and how to handle a loss, look at the great Duke Rufus and Din Thomas in their corner. Of course, and that's on the Thrill and the Agony, too. That's later on when T. Wood lost. And they show the bell ringing and they show the reaction from the corner. And, of course, they look disappointed because their guy lost. And then Duke Rufus says, well, let's go get our man.
Yeah.
Much respect to Duke Rufus. They go in there, they clean him up. If you look at the actual fight with Cody, I don't know of a UFC fight, and I've watched them all. I've cornered over 100 myself. I haven't seen the corner run out of the octagon before the fighter's hand is raised, the other one. You need to stay in there and show respect and have your man's back like Duke Rufus did. That's a good lesson to young coaches and even fighters who corner their training partners.
I think that happened with Stevens also. It happened like two or three fights earlier in the card, which is weird. You don't see that happen usually twice in one card.
What do you mean, running out of the cage?
Yeah, I think the same thing happened with Stevens against Zabit, if I'm not mistaken. Stevens and his team just left after the decision.
Oh, no, Stevens did. I'm saying just the corner. Cody's corner did.
Yeah.
Cody's standing there, and his 2 cornermen are just trying to get out of the cage there before the fight's even announced. First of all, your fighter was just victim of a brutal knockout. You need to have a hand on that guy while he walks out of the cage. If you're a combat sports fan, you know that after a fighter gets knocked out, there's been multiple times in boxing where the corner doesn't hold on to the fighter and they try to exit the ring and they fall on their face. You know what I mean? Because they're discombobulated. As a cornerman, as a coach, you need to have a hand on that fighter until he's sitting in a chair. You know, and that's just like nitpicky things. But those small things, if you can't get the small things right, you can't get the big things right. And that's just, I don't know. I watched that. I could barely watch that corner reaction. What was going on there? One guy had his face buried in his hands, and you know the reaction that I noticed was Bruce Buffer. I don't know if he had money on Cody or what. He probably just loved Cody like most people in the UFC, and you know he hit his own knee after the result. But
I didn't realize that. Was that on the Thrill in the Agony video as well?
Yeah, it was. Bruce Buffer was sitting off to the side, and he I don't know, he throws the card. He doesn't throw the card down, but he slaps his leg or something. But he could tell he was pretty upset. Probably just a no-love fan, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I do know that they want him to succeed there. Seems like one of the more marketable players, I guess, athletes in the UFC. And somebody they can market.
Take that into account too. You got to take that into account too. I mean, the promotion is behind Cody. They back his every move, and they want to see him succeed.
Yeah, so the matchmaking was on his side. I think that they thought that he could outbox Pedro. Pedro couldn't out-wrestle him, and Pedro's usually his best path is those trademark guillotine chokes. So yeah. I think that they thought he matched up with him basically favorably everywhere.
Well, he was handpicked. Munoz was handpicked for Cody's comeback. They looked at the top. I mean, I know he was handpicked, but I'm assuming they looked at the top 10 and said, "Oh, let's pick this guy." He gets hit by the kitchen sink. If Cody hits him, he's going to go to sleep. You know what I mean? And he's not necessarily known as a knockout guy.
Yeah.
Pedro was. He's known as a guillotine guy and a tough fighter. I've known Pedro since, I don't know, back in RFA when Lance Palmer was the champion. I was cornering Lance Palmer out there, and I met Pedro out there. When that fight was announced, I knew that was a tough fight, and that the result that happened didn't surprise me at all. But because I know Pedro can hit as well, you know, and he's got a chin like no other. And the thing is Pedro's the type of guy, the type of fighter, even at this stage in his career, he's in the gym 6-7 hours. He's doing 2-3 practices. He's sparring with John Lineker, in Barral. He's got all the guys at ATT working with him, focusing on him, and they know what's at stake. A win over Cody, you're a superstar, you know? I mean, look at the effect of even TJ. When TJ beat him twice, that really propelled TJ into not just the mainstream of MMA, but, I mean, just kind of the mainstream in combat sports. So they knew it was on the line with a fight with Cody, and they took it very seriously, obviously.
Do you think that you could ever end up back at Alpha Male? If they look at the results of late, there's a common denominator, and that's you having left the team. The team just hasn't been quite as good since then. Is that door, do you think, ever open again?
No, absolutely not. I will never go back to that gym. That's, you know, what I did there. I mean, I was there for 10 years. I was the first UFC fighter to fight out of Alpha Male. The social media, I did all that. I started it from scratch. You know, I made the Instagram, the Team Alpha Male Instagram. I ran that, and that was the biggest team Instagram in the sport. You know, Tiger Muay Thai has since beat it. I mean, other teams have since destroyed it because it's just that's not showing the same results that it used to either. To be frank, but you know, the logo on all their shirts. I designed that logo. I was a huge part of that, and you know, I didn't think that I would ever leave that. I thought I was going to die as a head coach at Alpha Male, but you know, c'est la vie. Things don't always work out the way you think they are, and sometimes they turn out better for you. So for me to ever coach Alpha Male again, that door is closed. I mean, I don't know. You're right. I'd have to lick my boot if you wanted me to go back in that gym, and even then, I don't think I'd do it.
So this obviously wasn't an amicable parting of ways. They took your head coach
amicable
away.
Parting of ways. I mean, dude, it's 10 years. These fighters, I've been working with some of these fighters for 6, 7, 10 years. You know, and then I'm on the out. Like, you know, we're winning, we're being successful. Like, and then I'm out of there. It just. Of course, it wasn't amicable.
And what about TJ? If TJ gave you a call and said, you know, let's let bygones be bygones. You're not with Alpha Male anymore. I need somebody else to help me along my path. I'm the champion. I just lost. Is that door open?
Of course that door's open. TJ has been nothing but respectful to me here's the deal with that. Dwayne Ludwig came into camp, and the results spoke for themselves like they do now. The team started knocking everyone out. We started coming together, and we had one of the best years of Team Alpha Male was under Dwayne Ludwig. Probably the second best year. The best year was 2016 when I was head coach. But the second best year was with Ludwig. We had title shots. The fighters were moving forward. And he gets ran out of there, and TJ ends up going with him. It was like a parallel to what happened when I was head coach. I coached 2016. Instead of TJ, it was Cody. Cody came up in 1 year, won the belt, and then I get run out of there. The only difference was Cody stayed at the camp instead of TJ, having loyalty to his coach and going with Dwayne to Colorado. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting parallel in the way things happen. And after Dwayne left, there was a year where, there was talks of the gym not continuing anymore. They were trying to sell the team, whatever that means, and everything else. And the lease was going up at our old location. And that last year, that's when I took over, and the program got revitalized at that point. And So springboarding off of that world championship with Cody and the number one contenders in 2 or 3 divisions and the top 10 ranked fighters and the win streaks we had, they moved into a giant facility, and that's where things started to change with me being in that position anymore. It's like the owner of if you think of it like football, it's like the owner of the team got jealous of the head coach and then showed up on the field and started coaching, instead of sitting back, kicking his feet up and saying, I started the team, I own the team. Everything you do makes my shine brighter. But some people just can't understand that because they can't see past their own ego,
And we have seen that in sports before, and it never usually works out when the owner or the GM decides to make personnel moves or whatever. Yeah. The GM makes coaching moves, the owner makes personnel moves, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're not qualified, and that's the thing too. If you talk about qualifications, like I was just mentioning Duke Rufus, because that guy's he's a huge influence on me in coaching. I watch everything he does. He's one of the best, and he just posted something on his Instagram that was at the Arnold Classic, and it was Anthony Pettis winning a fight by knockout, and it was in 2010, and he and Duke competed in a Jiu-Jitsu tournament during the Arnold Classic, and I saw the picture and I told him, I was like, man, that's crazy. 9 years ago, I was in the opposite corner with Master Tong. I was in the opposite corner against Pettis 9 years ago at a WC at the Arnold Classic. Like, I cornered Charlie Valencia. I trained Charlie Valencia with his first fight with Dominick Cruz. I mentioned that before, but that's the credentials that I bring to the table. I've been holding mitts and training fighters, Aldo 1, Aldo 2 for Mendes for years, and when I left the team, they replaced me with, other people that I had put in coaching positions, and those people don't even have close to the experience or credentials that I did. I was coaching and fighting for the last decade. I have 100 UFC corners. Some of these guys have 6. I think one of Cody's cornermen has 7 UFC corners, and he's 0-7 in the corner.
Wow.
You put a guy, he's 0-7 or 0-8 in the corners. Since I left the team, he was the tallest guy they could find, so they replaced me with him, and he's 0-8. It's like, I don't know. I have more world title fights than that. I got 14. So it's just crazy that you have to have the right person for the job. You can't just take someone and tell them to go into the ER and do emergency surgery. They need to have the experience, you know what I mean? And they have to have. It's not everyone can be a coach, and not everyone can hold mitts. I don't want to get into it, but.
Well, I think the big problem right now is just a lack of identity, because Chad's retired. I don't know what went into that decision. And
well, what the hell happened there, man? I leave the team, and dude, Chad Mendes is Chad Mendes like Chad Mendes is a legend of Alpha Male. This guy is a legend of Alpha Male. He he's like Bo Jackson. You know, Bo Jackson who was a two-sport athlete, NFL and ML baseball.
Yeah, and of course the GOAT in Tecmo Bowl. But continue.
Yeah, he was an amazing like multi-sport athlete. That's Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes could do a jump knee like 6 feet in the air, and he could show up after vacation and win the takedown tournament. Like Chad Mendes was incredible, and I don't know what happened to him. I mean, I guess I could text him, but I heard he retired, but he never mentioned that he retired. And
yeah, it kind of came out afterwards, and he's out of the rankings now. Like they removed him from the rankings, and apparently he just kind of quietly decided he was going to retire after that Volkanovski fight.
Well, yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, from what I heard was someone else announced it.
It never came out of his mouth. I've never heard Chad Mendes say I'm retired, but he's out of the rankings, so it must be something to it.
Yeah, so whoever announced it is a real, POS, man. I mean, you don't take that announcement from a fighter, you know? Like, you let a fighter tell the world when they're done. Whoever leaked that, you know, is a real scumbag, if you ask me.
Yeah, I don't remember where it came from. It was I think a reporter had put it out, but no, you know,
yeah,
Mendes had never. I was backstage
out,
there at 232, and somebody just told me, oh, it looks like Chad's retiring now. But that was the only time I'd really heard anything about it.
Yeah, that was leaked out of the camp. Someone got loose lips, but it wasn't their place to leak that information. It was Chad's place. You know, you should let the fighter have some dignity and let the world know when he's supposedly done. And you know, and if Chad is done, he's had a great career. But man, I mean, Mendes was always you speak in Mendes and they're like hushed tones. Like a fighter's coming up when they do something good, I'm like, oh man, that was like Mendes, you know, and they like their eyes light up. They're like, oh really? You know, I mean, he's that kind of fighter. He's that kind of special athlete, and I don't know. I just feel I should just hit him up. I haven't talked to him for a while, but I feel like that whole thing was botched as well, you know?
Yeah. So, again, it's kind of without Chad there and without a lot of the old school guys still competing, it's basically Cody and everybody else. Cody's kind of the face of Alpha Male. So to see that happen over the course of the weekend, it just makes me wonder where they go from here.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, too, is people, like, they make a situation that is kind of simple, just way too simple. They're like, oh, he decided to throw caution to the wind. Yeah, well, where was that guy? Where was the guy who threw caution to the wind and kill or be killed? I'm just going to go run across the cage holding my right hand out with my hands down. Where was that guy when he fought Dominick Cruz? It's funny, too, because Dominick Cruz's commentary, he just can't believe that Cody masterclassed him for five-minute rounds and took his title. He doesn't understand how it worked, because even before that fight, he was saying, well, TJ, it was the family over there, and TJ has a big brother mentality, so we're really going to see the real Cody come out for this fight. And this is Dominick Cruz just hoping that we see the Cody Garbrandt that schooled him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and well, you saw Munoz get into Cruz's face after the fight and asked what that was all about backstage, and Munoz said, I told him this week I was going to knock him out, and Cruz kind of like laughed at me. But there it was.
Yeah, exactly. So Cruz is just so confused that the fighter he's seen since the fighter that beat him, you know? He's so confused that Cruz beat TJ. I cornered TJ against Dominick, and I felt like TJ won the fight overall, if you score it like pride. But watching it back, you can see where Dominick Cruz could have taken down 3 of those rounds, you know what I mean?
Yeah, similar to GSP versus Hendricks. That's a comparable fight, yeah.
And that's perfect, you know? So that's what I felt about that. But to see the guy who seriously masterclassed him for 25 minutes, you know, beat him almost every round. I mean, you could give Cruz maybe 1 round of that fight. To see that guy go out and have the performance he did against TJ, a guy that Cruz beat twice, and then Pedro Munoz down at number 9, Cruz is just completely confused as to what happened, you know? Well, I mean, just a quick tidbit is, I cornered 27 rounds against Dominick Cruz. It's like I was Cody's head coach at the time. I mean, and there's people that say I had nothing to do with it. And you could say whatever you want, you know? But the results speak for himself. I mean, his only fight against the top 10 opponents are Pedro Munoz, number 9, TJ Dillashaw, and then Dominick Cruz, you know? And Dominick Cruz was the best out of all of them, and he masterclassed him, but he couldn't get past those other guys. And it has a lot to. It's coaching, it's a program, it's all that, you know.
It makes me wonder how many minutes of tape you've watched of Cruz over the years, and Aldo over the years. Cumulatively, it's probably hours and hours and hours.
You know, I added up how long I've been in the MGM Grand, and it's like, I think it's like almost 3 months in fight weeks, you know?
Wow.
That's like, you know what I mean? That's like 12 fight weeks, 11 fight weeks. And I've had 11 fighters competing in MGM, you know? So from Tuesday to Saturday, I've lived in that hotel for, you know, almost 3 months. It's ridiculous. But speaking of your point of watching tape on Dominick Cruz, I specifically remember, you know, all the little guys at Alpha Male telling me, hey, let's watch some tape on Dominick Cruz. And I'm like, I don't need to watch no tape. I got 27 rounds live in person, dude. I don't need to watch no tape on Cruz. You want me to show you my Cruz impression? You know, it's not bad.
Oh, what, but, in cage?
No, yeah, exactly.
Like if you were to just demo him?
Yeah, I'll just demo, but here's what Cruz is going to do. You know what I mean? Dance around all silly and then try to shoot a takedown. No, I'm just kidding. He's a great fighter.
What was the key to cracking that code?
For Cruz?
Yeah.
Well, it's what everyone says, Cody. Look at Cody's performance against Pedro. Watch that fight, and then watch Cody's performance against Marcus Brimage. You know, his first fight in the UFC. The thing with that fight that I remember distinctly is I had to keep Cody's chin down and keep him from winging punches and getting into the exchanges because he was so much faster. And that was Cody's first fight in the UFC, and his strategy and his fight style has regressed from that first fight in the UFC. You know, the key to cracking Cruz though was the main thing was that I would tell Cody the strategy was I said you were the lion. You know what I mean? A lion does not exhaust himself chasing down a hyena. You know what I mean? To get killed because he's too tired. A lion will sit in the center of the cage, and when that hyena comes up and tries to nip at him, he gets that. You know what I mean? He gets that lion paw right across the face. And we sit there and we take the center. You know what I mean? We don't chase him. We don't get emotional. And that was the entire strategy going into it was Cody. The thing with Cody is he gets emotional. And
you can see that in the last 3 fights for sure.
Yeah, and the way you control this is with coaching and reinforcement of game plans. So in sparring for Dominick, Cody would sometimes get a little out of control and unload on. I mean, it was a brutal camp. He broke an orbital bone. One of the guys, Matt Waggy, and the thing is, this is all in-house. We didn't bring in any. When I was coaching there and training there, we didn't bring in anybody ever. You know, we did everything in-house. We didn't bring in a single sparring partner for Dominick Cruz. We used our own guys, and you know, and the thing is, I don't want guys on my team getting hurt by Cody. You know what I mean? Because they have lives in their careers as well. But that was a brutal camp. He actually broke Matt Waggy. He's a professional fighter out of Florida. Broke his orbital bone, and I think he had 2 knockouts. He had knocked out a guy, a UK guy with the back fist, and so it was a brutal camp. But the thing was, Cody would get excited and unload on people, and everyone would be like, "Oh, no, you gotta stay calm." And I was like, "No, man. You have to stay calm." I was like, you don't necessarily have to stay calm. I said, you just have to tuck that chin. You know what I mean? You just can't get into that exchange. I like when you get on these guys like that, but we can't do that with Dominick Cruz. And one day he was training in the gym and he unloaded in sparring, and I told him I was like, Cody, you got to have ring generalship. And I seriously saw the light bulb go off in his head, you know, with the term ring generalship. And he started moving his feet, and then he pointed. You know how he pointed at Dominick Cruz? Yeah, he pointed at the guy, and I was like, oh, snap. This is something that connected with him, you know what I mean? This is, after all the whole year of saying, don't brawl, don't do this, the ring generalship is what did it, what connected with him. And Dominick is the master of ring generalship. You're going to be standing there in the cage with Dominick in round 4, tired with like you're stuck in the mud, and he's going to be dancing around, and the whole crowd's going to be watching him, and he's going to be scoring, even if he's not scoring, because it's just this basic like evolution. You know what I mean? If we're hunting something, movement is what our eyes pick up, and that's something that Cruz did. Cruz did. He would dazzle the crowd and he would dazzle the judges because he's doing way more work out there. If some guy's just standing there plotting and Cruz is dancing around you, who's winning the fight? You know, the guy who's moving around and pecking at the guy. So that was a big part of strategy. And when I told Cody ring generalship, something clicked. And seriously, that night it was crazy. It was like, you know, I don't know. It was a crazy turn of events. You know what I mean? But Dominick Cruz just came out with an interview. It was that afternoon, and he said in the interview, he said, Cody can't beat me. He's not experienced enough. He doesn't know anything about. He doesn't know about things like ring generalship. So I screenshotted
wow.
the article.
It's some locker room material, bulletin board material.
Well, exactly, and that was the day that it was a Wednesday after sparring, and that article was released. So I put a big circle around ring generalship, and I send it to Cody, and I say, we can't say ring generalship, you know, because say Cody chases him a little bit, and I go ring generalship, and then Cody calms down. I felt Dominick Cruz was gonna pick up on that. So I tell Cody, I'm like, we got to come up with some kind of something. Like, what can I say to you that means ring generalship, but we'll key in for only you? And he like looks at me and he goes, swag on him. So I'm like, all right, swag on him, like swag on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And if you watch Dominick Cruz versus Cody, I think it's about 40 seconds in. About 30 seconds in, Cody runs, swinging punches at him, running his feet at him. You know what I mean? He tries to get him because Cruz is dancing around, and Cody goes after him. About 30 seconds in, and about 40 seconds in, you just hear my voice. I go, swag on him, like, you know, as loud as I can. And then Cody like does like a little shuffle and backs off, and then from there he started breakdancing on him and everything else, and it was a masterful performance. And you know, that was the strategy of it. It just pisses me off when I see all these fair weather fans and all these dorks who think they know anything about MMA saying, you know, even I think Brendan Schwab. I mean, this guy's self-proclaimed expert, and he's saying, "Oh, Cody's kill or be killed." It's like, dude, he's not you, buddy. This guy was a world champion. He could beat anyone. He beat the greatest of all time. That's in him. He doesn't need to go out there and trade right hands with someone. It's not kill or be killed. It's win this fight, get the W, you know. And it just pisses me off when people say that, oh, he just got emotional. Oh, he just decided to do this. Well, that's all from training. That's all from the camp. That's all from the cues you receive from your coach. And, you know, there's a lot more into it than someone getting emotional or he needs to change his mentality. Well, where do you build your mentality? You build your mentality in camp. You know what I mean? And he's done it. We've seen how good Cody is. That's why Cody's like Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? He's such a polarizing figure. It's either going to be, you know, heaven or hell kind of deal with him. He's gonna go out there and show the potential that he did with Dominick Cruz. I mean, that fighter who beat Dominick Cruz, and this is respect to Cruz, man. Everything I say about Cruz, this is respect to Cruz, man. I've been cornering against the guy for a decade. He's beaten up all my friends, you know, in front of me. I'm sitting there live while he beats up all my friends for 10 years, and finally I get a guy to take this dude out, you know, and he does it to perfection, you know. And then for him to come back and have the string of fights that he has had, I mean, it's a tragedy. It's horrible. It's the last thing you want to see as a coach, and you know that's what happens. That should just prove to fighters the importance of a game plan, the importance of a good coach that knows what they're doing, and the importance of a good program. You know.
And are you still in touch with Cody at all?
Yeah, he does. I don't really keep in touch with most of those guys.
Yeah, no, that's
you know. Yeah, Uriah texted me today saying that I'm hanging on Cynthia's career or something. You know, he sees it like that and doesn't see the fact that she's the only one winning out of his gym.
Yeah.
You know? So it's interesting. I guess it's, you know, cognitive bias. Once people have ideas in their head, it's really funny because it's not really funny. It's a good lesson to me because when Dwayne was kicked out of the gym, Uriah went on Ariel Helwani and called him a racist. You know what I mean? It was a no-holds-barred attack on Dwayne's character and who Dwayne was because he left Team Alpha Male. And when Dwayne first left, I was on Dwayne's side. I was on TJ's side. you know, they want to say that TJ wasn't kicked out of the gym. I was there when he got kicked out of the gym. He was told he couldn't train there anymore. You know, there's a clip on the Ultimate Fighter of Faber saying, that is a bold-faced lie. No. I was there. TJ left, heartbroken. He wasn't allowed to train at Alpha Male anymore, hence moving to Colorado, because he was trying to do both. He was doing whatever he could, which was train with his coach who got him to the belt and his team that got him to the belt.
You're right,
but
yeah.
Once an ultimatum was given where he couldn't do that. And when then TJ left to Colorado, I became head coach at Alpha Male the day after I cornered TJ Dillashaw, because I went to corner TJ Dillashaw to corner my friend who I had loyalty to with Dwayne, and that was January, I think, of 2016. And I took over as head coach at Alpha Male after that fight because I couldn't go corner. I said, fine, I'll do it. I'll do it after. I'll officially become head coach after, but I need to fulfill this obligation. And of course, I was, you know, hated for however long by Uriah for cornering TJ, because now TJ and Dwayne are the enemy because they left. You know.
So how hard was that season of Ultimate Fighter for you? Because basically that was, you know, it was TJ and Cody, and you still kind of liked TJ, I guess, and Dwayne, but you were the head coach of Cody's team on that season.
Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So for me, it's like I'm not morally better than anybody. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm just a guy living. But when I became head coach of Alpha Male, I really lived into my role. You know what I mean? It's like the Stanford prison experiment. You know about that?
Yeah.
Where they took a bunch of kids and they made them guards and prisoners, and the guards lived in these roles and started like beating the kids, and the kids were like, you know, the students were like, they made them do push-ups, and they lived into these roles. Once they said you're a prison guard, they forgot they were just dorky students, psychology students, and they really thought they were prison guards after 3 days. They had to shut it down. You know what I mean? They're like, we're pulling the plug. This is too dangerous, you know? That's the same thing that happened to me, but in a good way. I became head coach at Alpha Male, and I said, all right, I can never be late. You know what I mean? I have to mean what I say, and I have to give an example to all these kids coming up, you know? So I really tried to live into that role. And as far as it came to friendships, me and TJ, we were good friends. And once I became head coach at Alpha Male, he was the guy across the cage from me. And I lived into that role, and I was training the guy to beat him. He was the top contender at the time. I was training Cody to beat TJ. You know what I mean? And TJ is with Dwayne, and I really like TJ, so I start putting all my negative energy, well, not negative energy, competitive energy against Dwayne. I'm like, all right, Dwayne's the bad guy. When Dwayne honestly has done nothing but treat me with respect my whole life, and Dwayne is one of the biggest influence on coaching in my career. You know, you want to come out and say this stuff. I was like, before Dwayne even came to Alpha Male, I had Bang Muay Thai volumes 1 through 5 on DVD back in the day, and that helped me, taught me how to shape a practice, and the first kickboxing drills I did were off those DVDs. So I owe a lot to Dwayne, you know. But that's the truth of the matter. And after becoming head coach of Alpha Male, it's like, TJ's in my sights, and and I'm very competitive, you know, like, and we were very competitive with each other, you know, and the other misconception is that I was TJ's trainer. I was never TJ's trainer. Me and TJ, we were compatriots coming up, you know, like I was in the UFC when he first walked in the gym, and we became friends, and we started training together and helping each other, and I'd corner him and he'd corner me, but I was never his trainer. He is not a world champion trained by me. Cody was a world champion trained by me. He was my student. I was his head coach. But going into the Ultimate Fighter, it was TJ had left the gym, and I had cornered him, and we were friends, but by the time the Ultimate Fighter came around, I showed up at the Ultimate Fighter, TJ showed up at the Ultimate Fighter, and TJ was my enemy in my head, you know. I had Cody, the fight was signed, all the other influences on me, and, you know, it was, as far as I was concerned, it was like, we're going to settle this fight between Cody and TJ, between me and Dwayne and all that, and afterwards, we can be friends or we can not, but my professional career as head coach of this team means you are in my crosshairs, you know, period. And I put friendships onto the side of that. I put loyalty to martial arts instructors on the side, all to live into my job and be the best head coach I could be for Team Alpha Male. And looking back, that was a mistake, you know. I should have never mixed those friendships with what was business, you know. But for me, it's not business, and I mean, it's all business. My life is MMA. This is what I do. So You know, there was it must have been a surprising situation for TJ to show up as the Ultimate Fighter and have me act the way I did. You know, all of a sudden I'm his enemy. You know, and you know, I got a ton of respect for TJ because through everything, the dude was always he was just solid to me. And there was an interview he did afterwards where he fought, and well, the thing too was I know TJ real well. This might sound bad, but I know TJ real well. I know what TJ is doing. I know what Dwayne's doing. Obviously, we lived together. You know what I mean? I cornered him for more fights than Dwayne did. And my guy Cody at the time, he's beaten TJ 10 out of 10 times. So I had that cocky attitude going into the show as well. You know what I mean? But we just never trained the same. After Dominick Cruz, after Cody got the belt, our relationship just continued to dissolve. He didn't come to the gym for a while because of whatever's going on with his back or whatever the hell that was. You know, I don't really know what was going on there. I can't get a straight story, but I stayed in the room and worked with all the fighters because as far as I was concerned, while Cody was out, he needed to come back to a world-class room. You know what I mean? Like, that was the most important thing to keep the team strong, because strong team, strong fighter, you know? And we just never had the same relationship after he beat Dominick Cruz. And I'm telling you, man, for these young fighters out there, like, look at what happened to Mike Tyson. Like, look at what happened to these great fighters. Like, all this stuff is out there, man. Watch the Rocky movies. Be careful with who manages you. Power of attorney is an important thing, you know? Watch this stuff, and all this info is out there. Don't be fooled by, like, necklaces and shoes and stuff. That stuff doesn't mean crap if you're not winning, you know? You have to win, and winning is done on the mat. And this is something I told Cody and every fighter. I said, the bigger your career gets, the more everyone is going to try to, and everyone and everything is going to try to pull you away from that blue mat. We had a blue mat at the old gym. And I say the further you get away from the blue mat, the worse it is for your career. Because that's where the real work to be a champion is done, on that blue mat. You know what I mean? With your teammates, with your coaches, being in the gym training. Now, I mean, you can think of it a lot of ways. You go do strength and conditioning at another gym. Is that bad? Not necessarily, but how far is it away from a real fight? Well, it's pretty damn far. Instead of doing real fighting stuff, you're pushing a sled. You know what I mean? You're like, you got a football player telling you to shadow box. You know, this stuff just drives me crazy. But for young fighters out there, man, the work is done in the gym. Like, Forrest Griffin had to get kicked out of the gym. The great fighters, and I bring up Forrest Griffin because Forrest Griffin didn't have 1/10 of the talent that Cody did, you know? But he stayed in the gym nonstop, and he made up for it with hard work. And that's what I believe. I believe that. That's why that's another reason why I completely love MMA and combat sports, because you could take a guy on paper who is not supposed to win at all. He has no chance. And with the right training and the right room and the right program, this fighter can come in there and put a master class on someone. You know, I mean, a perfect example is Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. That's impossible. It's impossible for Buster Douglas to win. He was like 40-1 underdog or something like this. Something completely ridiculous.
I don't even think that was the fight was broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, his mother had passed away. That put this insane motivation into him, and he was going after it. Meanwhile, Mike Tyson, by his own admission, was living like, you know, Caligula in, you know, and he said that, Caligula, the Roman emperor, and he said he was living like him in Japan, just women and debauchery and everything else. And when you do that, you know, that's what a good training camp can do. You could beat Mike Tyson with Buster Douglas. And that's why I love the sport and I love training people, because you can just take a guy like Darren Elkins. No one's talking about him being in the title, but last I cornered him, they sure as hell were. You know what I mean? It's like Teru Ishihara I don't think he's in the UFC. I think he dropped 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah, I think so.
You know?
He just lost to Kyung Ho Kong a couple of weeks ago.
By knockout in the first round.
Yeah.
In the first, what?
And Kong's not even a knockout guy.
Exactly. That just shows what coaching can do. I mean, last I saw Ishihara, we were.
He was a big prospect.
You know, no, he was a huge prospect. He was a superstar. I mean, we went to Utah. He knocked this kid out, and you know his "I love my bitches" thing. He had 8 girls. I used to fight in Utah. I was the Showdown champion, so I know Utah pretty well. I love Utah, but Teru was in Utah. He took a picture, and it was him surrounded by like eight like Utah babes.
Yeah, Mormon women.
No, Jack Mormon. There's a difference. So a Jack Mormon is a Mormon that went astray. You know, it's a term over there. So the Mormons are all good and goody two shoe, and then when they turn away and go and do, you know, see the world and do bad things, they're called Jack Mormons. So we had eight Jack Mormons in bed with him. He took a picture, it went crazy viral, and this kid was a superstar, man, and he is a superstar in Japan. If you look at, you know, Japan, I think per capita, Japan is like the hardest hitters with Twitter. You know, more Japanese use Twitter than anything else there, and he has an insane following on Twitter. And you know, the kid was a superstar. Next thing I know, you know, he's got his walking papers. He's losing by knockout. I remember him being a knockout. Well, when I trained him, he was a knockout artist. The guy was a collegiate baseball player, and he had a left hand from hell. Like, this guy could put anyone to sleep. And then next thing I know, he's suffered, I think, 2 or 3 knockout losses. He's out the UFC. I don't know.
Yeah, he lost to Kong by sub. Got knocked out by Peter Yan, who's one of the top prospects, and then he lost 3 out of his other 4 fights were a decision. He beat Rolando D.
Yeah.
His only win since August 2016, so almost 3 years.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah,
when did you were you cornering him against Artem, against Lobov, and against Gray Maynard?
I did. Were you out there for Artem?
No, that was in Ireland.
Oh yeah. That was awesome. That was an awesome show. Taru came up short, but against Artem, but he dropped him, and he did everything that we trained to do. Taru did everything. Sometimes the fighter can do everything you train them to do, and you can still lose the fight, and that was a perfect example.
Yeah, that was his first loss in the UFC.
Forward, when Artem came forward, he was supposed to take Artem down. You know what I mean? When Artem came forward, we were going to use our wrestling. And in the first round, that exact situation played out. Artem came forward, and Taru took him down and then let him get up with no cost. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves in MMA. Like, sometimes you see a guy stumble or you catch a kick and the person falls and the other fighter lets them up. I'm like, oh my God, like, you just had a takedown. You know how hard it is to get a takedown on a high level and get on top of someone, and you just let that fighter stand up? Anyways, that happened in that fight, and I said this, I go, you know, martial arts, we got Artem. Martial arts, skills-wise, boxing-wise, takedown-wise, fit-ins, jiu-jitsu, we got Artem. We got this guy, you know. We'll just get Taru in great shape, stick to that plan, and he'll win the fight. But, you know, and I said this, if Taru connects, Artem's going to get put on his butt, you know. And that happened, too. Taru connected, sat him on his butt. But Artem, the thing that I didn't factor in that fight was Artem's physicality, man. Artem's head is the size of a damn Ninja Turtle, man. The guy is huge, and he's very motivated and very driven to win fights, you know. And he knows what he lacks, say, physically, like talent-wise. He's not really the fastest guy, and he's got short little T-Rex arms. But, you know, we did our job martial arts wise, but we still lost that fight, and that was just a great lesson, you know. But I remember being at that fight, and Taru couldn't walk down the street. It was crazy. He was like Justin Bieber over there, because the Irish fans are very, very knowledgeable. And after that fight, it was one of the coolest experiences, even with taking the loss, you know, because it was a split decision, I believe, and I'm not sure about that. It could have been unanimous. It wasn't. Yeah. It was unanimous, but Taru put him down, took him down, and you know, he kind of just got outworked and out physicality. And then he after that he fought Gray Maynard, and then he dropped to 35.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he went down to bantam. Yeah. All right, Justin. Well, I always appreciate your honesty. Thanks for doing this, and we'll see what ends up happening with Alpha Male. But right now, it's they're kind of at a low with Cody's third straight loss.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right, man. Well, best of luck with everything. So you've got Figueiredo coming up, and Cynthia Calvillo wants to fight Tatiana Suarez, which is one of the craziest call-outs, because nobody's ever called out Tatiana Suarez.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know what these other fighters are doing. You want to get the belt or not, you know? And that's with all due respect to Tatiana. And here's the thing. It's like, make the fight. Cynthia's going to step up. Cynthia's going to do what she needs to do to win that fight, and I truly believe that. I think she's one of the best in the division, and I think this last fight, even though she didn't get a finish, I think the experience she got. Sometimes, I mean, you have to build a fighter. In boxing, they don't just take someone with 6 fights and put them in there with the best fighter they can, or a top 10 fighter. Like Floyd Mayweather got a silver medal in the Olympics, and everyone said he should have got the gold medal. His first fight, he fought a guy who was like 4-6. as a pro, you know? A guy who was 4-6, and then he had a guy. They vet these guys. They give them experience, and I feel like Cynthia's last fight was exactly that. She never had 3 rounds stand-up fight, you know, with no takedowns, where she was forced to stand up, and she did that, and she passed the test. So wait till she gets someone who wants to grapple with her, you know, and we'll see what happens, because she's a shark on the ground, you know.
And are you cornering Figueiredo against Formiga?
No, I trained him for his fight against who was the guy, Moraga?
Yeah.
He came stateside, and I trained him for 2 weeks, and then I got cut out of that corner, you know.
Oh, you did.
But he had an amazing performance. Yeah, we were training. I had my plane ticket to go corner him for that fight, and we had worked out a deal. I was working out a Fabio Prado's gym, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, and right before I was supposed to leave, I was told I wasn't supposed to go anymore, you know.
Oh.
So it's interesting. It's interesting, the politics here in Sacramento, but you know, Cynthia she's it's early in the year, and you know, Cody got a title shot without being a top 10 ranked guy in 1 calendar year, you know. 4 fights, culminating with the UFC world title, and we're only 2 months into this year, and Cynthia just got a PRP procedure on her shoulder yesterday, so she has 4 weeks to recover from that. But hopefully after that, you know, we could fight Tatiana in 8 weeks or 12 weeks, you know, after the 4 week rehab.
Yeah, there was a rumor she was going to be fighting Nina Ansaroff, but I guess that's not happening anymore because Nunes is off that card too.
Man, that's what I was saying, because originally they proposed a fight with Tatiana 8 weeks from the date. I don't know when that is exactly, but 8 weeks from when Cynthia called her out, and Cynthia had actually foregone surgery recommended by the UFC on her shoulder for her supraspinatus rotator cuff tear, and she didn't get the surgery, and this was 4 weeks before she had to fight Courtney Casey, and she turned the surgery. She stayed in the fight, didn't get the surgery recommended by Dr. Davidson of the UFC. You know, he's been there for 15 years or something. You know, he recommended surgery. She turned down the surgery to stay in the fight, and knowing that after the fight we were at least going to get a PRP shot to deal with this injury. You know, but they wanted her to do a quick turnaround and fight in 8 weeks, and you know, at that point, she had already fought 2 times in 3 months, and we just didn't want to. Well, she wanted to. She was actually speaking with her manager, Danny Rubenstein. We were all on a conference call, and, you know, she got real emotional trying to stay in that fight in 8 weeks with Tatiana. She wanted it so bad, and it was up to me and Rubenstein to do our jobs as her head coach and manager to protect the fighter from themselves, because we need a close to 100% Cynthia Calvillo to fight someone like Tatiana.
Yeah, for
Tatiana,
sure. Anybody against her would have to be 100% or close.
Exactly. So we can't, the UFC wanted that fight in 8 weeks from our last fight, and we said we'll do it in 12 weeks. We'll do it June 8th. You know, because 4 weeks for the PRP shot for rehabilitation. But the thing is, it could take 4 to 6 weeks. So we're still, you know, the odds are still not with us to be 100%.
So is that fight booked? 4 to 6 weeks.
No, it's not booked. It's not booked. But that's what we said. We said, let's do it June 8th. We'll be ready June 8th. Let's either that or give us Claudia Gadelha. If you want to have Nina Asmaroff or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Her biggest, Nina Asmaroff fight Tatiana. No one cares about that. No one wants to see that fight. Everybody wants to see Cynthia Calvillo versus Tatiana Suarez. And let's not make it a 3-round fight. Nobody wants to see a wrestler try to hold down someone. Let's see a 5-round fight, real deal. Let's get a finish, and let's make that the main event. You know, main event or co-main event for 5 rounds. I mean, this is 2019. You know, women rule the world. They're way better than men. That's what the media keeps telling me. So let's have them as the main event and do it up and do it right, and have a real number 1 contender to challenge Namajunas, the winner of Namajunas and the little pile driver.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. All right, Justin, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, no worries.
I want you to subscribe. Subscribe. Hey, I'm not joking about that subscribing, okay?